Hey, welcome to Rockwest Chronicles. I'm Tim Anderson. I'm sitting here with Rockwest himself. Today we've got Scorpio from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five on the show. Scorpio is an extraordinary artist, a fashion icon in his own right, and somebody that we just love. So we're happy to have him here. I think what you're going to get today is going to be something that's going to really spark you because it's going to get down to what creates an icon. And Grandmaster Flash and Furious Five, first, Grammy Award winning rap stars, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stars, only inductee, I think, at this point. And really, there was a reason why. And I think that reason had a lot to do with this gentleman sitting to my right, Rockwest. So please sit back. This is our first episode. It should be enlightening. It should be fun. It should spark your imagination. And just think about it. You know, how do you become an icon? What separates you from the rest? So sit back and enjoy the show. This is episode 1. So our inaugural guest today is Scorpio, a.k.a. Eddie Morris, also known as Mr. Ness. Scorpio is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award-winning, Grammy Award-winning co-founder of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Welcome to the Chronicles of Rockwest, Scorp. How you doing, man?
Thank you, my brother, man. It's definitely an honor and pleasure being on your platform, and and yes, I am true. I am one of the original members from Grandmaster Flash and Furious Five, and I'm ready to take this journey with you guys today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for showing up. We know our viewers are going to get a lot out of this because, Mick is kind of the guy they don't know. You're definitely the guy they do know. And by the way, kudos on the performance at Central Park. You guys beat the rain and you threw down. You took the show up a notch. Everything was cool. Then you guys hit the stage and it got live.
For those of you that don't speak pig Latin, I was trying to explain with sign language. But please continue.
So, happy you're here. If we can jump into us, tell us how'd you meet Mick? How'd you meet the great Rockwest?
Well, when our group Grandmaster Flash first got signed to Sugar Hill Records, it was Miss Rob, the late great Miss Rob had a designer come over and our clothes. I really forgot his name. I know he was real eccentric, you know what I mean? And us from the Bronx, we wasn't, too comfortable with him, but we worked with him because we was the new kids on the block. And then, I guess at some point, you know what I mean, he just felt he was bigger than the industry and bigger than the game. And Mick was clever and smart enough to double back. And basically, he didn't even have to cut his throat. He just seen an opportunity, you know what I mean, where it needed a void. We still needed a designer for us and the Sugar Hill Gang and other groups. And Mick felt that void. And the rest is history.
Wow. So he was savvy enough to know he didn't have to push. He just needed to show up.
Well, actually, the way it really happened was I knew Sylvia from way back, having designed clothes for her when she was the Mickey and Sylvia Pillow Talk thing, and ran into her in 1980 in a nightclub, and she suggested I come by and meet you guys. Now, I was already up on the rap game because Sugar Hill Gang, Curtis Blow, you guys had a song out, Freedom, and some dance moves and numbers and stuff. I thought it was really cool, a lot of fun, and I used to go to Metropolis on Friday nights, and they spun hip-hop records, and we jammed and roller skated to it, right? So when I get the call from her, I came by with, remember, Mike Angelo drove us over in this Rolls-Royce limo, and I had Calvin with me, and Calvin was supposed to be my associate designer and all that, but he thought he was bigger than life. I took one look at you guys, and I saw success written in your eyes. I saw it in your eyes. I saw the same thing in your eyes that Miles Davis said he saw in my eyes when I was 18 and 19, because you guys were between 18 and 20 years old then. You were still young guys. And then when I went by the studio and saw you in action in the studio, I said, they know how to operate in the studio. Clever, real smart, real good. But I didn't really think big about you until I heard the message. And my old lady said, isn't that the guys that you made clothes for and you're working with? I heard the message. That turned everything around. Remember, I called Sylvia and demanded that we all get together for a meeting because I said, we're going to have to redesign their whole look. It's got to be gothic. It's got to be less pretentious. And with you, Scorpio, you wanted to be Elliot Ness and Untouchable. I said, no, you got to go with that name that made you what you are today, your astrological sign, Scorpio. You agreed, and then you and I got into talk and communication, and you straightened out a lot of things with me about you, about the group. And once we got on the same plate or the same table or the same book or whatever you want to call it, we got busy and we got to work. You were calling me and coming by all the time because you wanted to see exactly what I was doing, and I wanted to get with you to find out how you guys worked. And then you came up with the idea, let's do costumes for the group in black and white, black and red, black and green, black and pink. And I said, perfect. You guys were thinking on your feet, but you were actually the soul of the group and the foundation for putting together the Grandmaster Furious 5 look.
I mean, absolutely, man. And I appreciate you putting it out there. You know what I mean? Because that's a pretty... I take it whenever I can get it, baby, at this point.
Well, there's no doubt that you definitely were more focused on that imagery. But on the other hand, all you guys laid it out, you know, and Mick sort of made it happen in a visual way. But when you guys hit the stage, you weren't, you know, that was before grunge. That was before a lot of things got really basic and sports took over the sportswear look. You know, that's when Flash was the thing, you know, to come out with some pizzazz, you know what I mean? And right. You guys hit the stage, you look like rock stars. I mean, you came out like bam, you know? I mean, you know, Little Richard would have been impressed, you know what I mean? Right. So that was the thing, that extra bit of stagecraft, that bling, you know, and you were like the coolest cat on stage, of course, you know. Mel may argue that point, but you know what I'm saying.
I think he would agree. He would agree.
Yeah. So
if you don't, we could disagree.
You agree to disagree. Yeah.
Like Mel could portray himself as a Conan the Barbarian warrior, but I looked at you, I said, Scorpio's more of the Maasai warrior. He's got a whole look that cross-reference with indigenous people in both Africa and America. And then he'd bring it to my attention, but let's rock it with this particular look I got, and let's take it to another level that nobody else has. Hearing that, I couldn't resist.
So do you remember what the first costumes that Mick made for you or made for the band?
It had to be something very, none of his stuff is simple, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as elaborate once I really understood the science of him making clothes. So it had to, yes, be some typical, you know, white and black leather, you know what I mean? My stuff was always 3/4, you know what I mean? Cowboy, right. He went straight with the fringes, and, you know, he gave us that original look with the fringes and cowboy with the ball. Yeah, I think it was just black and white, you know what I mean? That leather, you know what I mean? You know, leather have its own energy and its own spirit. So once you put it on, you take on a whole different character. If you understand what you're wearing. You know, a lot of people, that's why in our era, a lot of people, like a lot of groups they even went to Mick to get their clothes made. But they never fully understood, you know, the spirit behind leather. Like, you ain't supposed to walk around in a sweatsuit and behave the same way when you wear leather. When you wear leather, it's not supposed to. And if it don't come over you, you're not tapping in, because don't forget that was a spirit. That was, you know, something that was
living into.
That's right. Yeah. That's deep. I like the way you connected that.
You almost got to make peace with it and understand that, you know, you using that part of that animal just to further you. You know what I mean? So he's still living through you. And if you don't get that, you're just going to have a storm. You know what I mean? But I got it. You know what I mean? That's why it came. It came with that spirit. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's so funny you say that. We were just talking with the cat about that yesterday. You know, Mick took these animals and he understood and respected the skins. And I know this from working with him for years and watching him even, you know, long before I got to New York and met you and everybody. he just had a respect for it. He, you know, when he went and bought skins, he held them a certain way. He looked at them a certain way. You have to handle it. You know, they always said in the leather craft, they always said the hand, you know, how it feels. But he was really fulfilling his thing, though. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying earlier, before you understood his methodology, his science about how he did things. Yeah. And I want you to elaborate on that a little bit. But clearly, you know, he had an understanding about it from when he was a kid. You know, and he was admiring the Native American attire. When I was a kid, he had all these books on Chief Joseph and all the chiefs and the feathers and their garnishments, the embellishments in their clothing, and he would say, well, this is how they count the years, you know, and you know, with the Yaqui Indians or this group or that group, and we were all just like, yeah, he's out there, man, you know, he's still out there, you know what I'm saying? But it really did resonate, you know. So I'm telling you, it's good that you really grasped that and brought that up, man. So yeah.
Yeah, I understood it. You know what I mean? I understood it more than most. Not, you know what I mean? That's why, you know, once I really got into it, that's why brothers like Rick James and all of them really gravitated towards me. Even though they knew the whole group, but Rick was just like, he was like my musical father in the industry. Even next to him, and don't get me wrong, he was a mega superstar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was something that he seen in me. Because, you know, once I put that level on, I don't give a fuck if you was Prince, Rick, or whoever. With all due respect, you can't outflake me. That's my
I'll drink it.
Yeah.
Once I put that level on, it's even playing field. It don't matter if you sold 10 million, you sold 10 copies. Because once we put our outfit on, it's just man against man and what we got. And I know how to work mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know how to, you know what I mean? So, you know, I definitely always tip my hat to Mick, you know, for understanding me and giving me that little extra edge. Because I did have an extra edge, even with everybody in my group.
That's
because
true.
They didn't take the time to really understand, like, the wide range of level. They never went down to the village and hung out. See, you have to do all of these things just to tap into it. Because if you stay up in the Bronx, it's going to go over their head because they only seen what they seen. They only seen the clothes from Fordham Road or, you know, 125th Street, this and that. So they didn't get the power of it. Even though a lot of them try to imitate it by buying it, but they didn't understand the real power because they never went past 125th Street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we go to nightclubs or restaurants or openings or something. Once we walked in the door, just you and me, wearing some leather stuff, it's like the whole place turned out. We just turned them all out. If there wasn't a table, they create a table and they bring champagne over, no questions asked. Nobody, you know, gave us any extra props or anything, but it was like a silent equation that happened there. They knew we had entered another spiritual world and another realm. Just like when we walked into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and got approached by all these rockers and just wanted to shake your hand.
Right. And, you know, even though that's something that sounds like it's really like, okay, we walking in a store or walking in a restaurant, but then you get to understand, that's why how people will gravitate to look at you in the suit. It gives you a vision for your next suit. So you have to really like play the streets and I mean, and just being in that environment, you definitely just going to be around black people. You have to be around Asian, the whites, and all of that to know how to design your suit so you can have an impact on everybody. And that's the best I had by hanging down in the village. You might think
very diverse crowd. Yeah,
you needed that.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, do you mind going up there? And I think in one of my closets I got a white jacket. You know, with that, I need.
Go ahead, Scorp. Go ahead, man.
Please, the one I want on TV. It's the white jacket. I just need something else because I don't think a T-shirt is going out interview justice.
We stepped it up a little bit. Nah, look, Scorp. You always got the power. That's number one. You know, Mick's able to interpret that. I mean, on the flip side, you know, I was doing business, you know, I was Mr. Businessman kind of stuff, you know, doing deals. And I started coming to New York and he was hanging out with you and you guys were running the village. You know, you guys were getting out. You know how it was back in the day. You know, downtown was jumping. It was just popping.
I mean, listen. Let me put this on the table, and not because Mick is saying Mick know I love him to death. So that we ain't even got. Mick is a very smart individual. I learned so many different things from Mickey, you know what I mean, that had nothing to do with industry. I mean, a while ago, we was on the phone, and we was talking about the Anunnakis, you know what I mean, and the different civilizations that's out there in space, and you know what I mean? So with Mick, it's not just like, you know, all fun and game. I know he what he liked, but I learned a lot about the planet by being with Mick. I mean, because you could sit there and just listen to his stories. You'd be like, yo, this dude is smart. It's like, you know what I mean? You just don't know where he really gets from.
Well, you know, that's why we're bringing this story world to life, you know, because first of all, it's the work. Mick's covered more people, done more designs for stagecraft. You know, he's just that kind of cat. You know, a curator at Smithsonian said, you know, she said, I'm working on it, but I believe he's the most prolific designer of, you know, rock stars and people in the media business that's ever lived. You know, so that creates a whole nother dynamic in terms of telling a story, you know, because, you know, we always have the goats, you know what I'm saying? And we learn to appreciate that. Well, coming from that standpoint of who Mick is and what he's done, he's a goat. You know, there's never been anybody like him. And then when you think that he came from, you know, the neighborhood, you know, south side of Chicago, straight up cat, you know, ends up designing for Elvis when he's like a teenager or in his early 20s. And it just goes on with Miles and with all these other artists. You know, you have to really appreciate that you had this brother who came on the scene, was fearless, and went out there and just did it. You know what I mean? So...
Actually, I was thirsty, hungry, and horny. Let's get that straight. Every time I saw myself in a leather costume, every time I thought about it, then I looked at you two in your costumes, I said, nothing can stop us now. Nothing.
Look, Mick is being modest, all right? Because it started way before. You got to realize this is the guy that made the costumes for Miles Davis, Shaka Khan, Mick Jagger. I mean, he made the clothes for... what's that last Games of Thrones? So Mick had a whole history before we even came on scene. You know what I mean? So, and if he could deal with people like Miles Davis, I know he could, you know what I mean, dealt with a couple of kids from the Bronx. And so that's what I think a lot of other designers, they was really scared of Bronx cats because we had a rawness about us where they couldn't understand us. But it's just that, and Mick wasn't scared of that. Because everybody else we chase off, not intentionally, just the way we talk. You know what I mean? Like, you know, somebody say something, man, fuck you, man. You know, but that's normal thing.
We know.
But when you get a designer, ain't been around that, and he was like, yo, and like he might say something, man, fuck you, man. He really think like it's about to go down.
Right,
and that's,
right.
So Mick had that, whereas he understood that, and that's why he lasts longer than anybody. You know what I mean? Because a lot of designers, they just stay up there on that white cloud. You know what I mean?
Right.
With the real culture, because no matter what, the real culture is always in the game. You know what I mean?
So that's why it's fascinating to me, right? Because, you know, I mean, think about it. How do you end up doing clothes for country stars and, you know, Glenn Campbell and Dwight Yoakam and, you know, and then he do the pop stars, Marvin Gaye and, you know, Cher, you know, the TV personality, Sharon Stone, you know, Quick and the Dead. You know what I mean? He like crossed so many lines that it's confusing for most people. How
tequila helped, but whiskey worked better.
What my theory is this, just like what I alluded to before, because Mick is a very smart, intelligent person, because after you come and you measure somebody and you just sitting in a room with them, you got to know, have to strike a conversation to keep their interest and to be like, wow, and feel like you learning something from that person. That's why a lot of designers get treated like flunkies, like, oh, yeah, all right, get out. But Mick know how to captivate you. You know what I mean? He stood around a lot of these people and even get to the point where after designing something for Mal also want to hang out with him because he always has something to say. That's what Scorpio would hang out with me because he always has something to say. And don't get me wrong. I mean, to keep it 100, me and Mick used to go through our thing. We used to fight.
I remember the time I forced you to wear a G-string on stage under your coat, and I said, after you put this on, you'll be the star of the show. You believe me, and you was the star. And everybody asked for autographs. You standing there, sexy as ever.
Hey. We good, man. So, I mean, I know this interview is about us jointly, but I just want the people that don't know that the person that we're talking to and talking about is just as equally a legend, just as equally a pioneer, just as equally to belong in a designer hall of fame. You know what I mean? So this is not just somebody doing an interview that is not warranted to have a straight, respectful conversation with somebody.
Yes, that's right.
You know what I really like too was when you and I got together and found out Harry Belafonte was about to do Beach Street, and got right on the phone with him, and I said, how can you even contemplate doing a movie about hip-hop without Grandmaster Flash? We showed up at the production studio and all that the next day, and it was like he stepped right over the cocktail table to meet you. You and Mel and myself, he took one look at us and he says, done deal. I'm thinking all along, well, great. Now you guys are set. That'll keep you busy. I was ready to turn around and go back to my design studio and get to work. And he's looking at me, wait, what do you do? And you told him, this is a guy that designs clothes for Miles, Elvis, and you laid out the whole list, told him all that. He wrote me a check for 10 grand that day. Start making them costumes. Get started right now. We want you to costume them for the show.
Right.
And I said, God, that was one of the best compliments I'd ever had. And pick up a check for 10 grand at the same time. That was yesterday's money, ladies and gentlemen. That was today's money. That's like picking up a check for 100 grand.
It's there, man. I think it was really incredible, man. I just was on the phone with some people today, and we had a conversation about you, Mick. I'm like, what, can we do something? Because they want to do some of this stuff that we did. I'm like, well, listen, I got the original guy that did all that stuff. So it ain't even like we got to go look for a carbon copy. You know what I mean? I got to understand the science of what we need to be in. Because, a lot of hip hop artists, and even a lot of cats in our group, they didn't even understand how they should wear what they wear. So a lot of that Mick is personally responsible for.
Yeah.
He was responsible for a lot of their looks. He'd do, I remember he used to have this, I ain't gonna call it a scam, but it was definitely some shit I didn't like. He'd come somewhere and be like, oh, I got a suit for you, and he touching you. And
oh, those long fittings. We could get intimate and personal. And I could tell you stories about my morbid past or my sex life.
Yeah, put that there. And at the end of the day, I'm just looking at him. I'm like, yo. And then he walk away with like around $2,000 or $3,000 for him rubbing a finger on somebody.
Massage therapy.
He was incredible with that. So at some point, when I used to get a suit, and he wanted, I'm like, yo, Mick, you got my size, man. Make my size.
No, turn around, Eddie. Let me get you a back.
You're not gonna have it figuring you all over, yeah.
I figured it out, man. I mean, Mick was something else, man. He was something. But at the end of the day, he always delivered.
Of course.
Hey,
the work ethic was solid.
Yeah, the work ethic.
You got to come through.
It's like what Clive was saying at the show you guys did, right? Mm-hmm. He was like the work ethic.
Yeah. Yep.
So Scorp, again, great appreciation for you being here. Helping us bring this Rockwest story to life, and giving young people a chance to, understand how important your gear was to social changes that occurred. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was hip hop and you guys were all, pressed and wearing impressive clothing, or rock and roll, or the punk scene, because Mick was doing the Ramones, you know what I'm saying? And all of these things had to do with every brand of sort of social consciousness and attire. So So maybe you could reflect on that a bit, and obviously you guys can just let it roll.
Well, you know what's funny? With guys like the Ramones, Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, and those guys, they'd ask me too, did you make clothes for Flash and them? Yeah. And Scorpio, did you make that suit? They would always say Flash and them, but then they point right at you, right? And they even wanted to know if you did any work outside the studio. That I couldn't answer, but I did know that Sylvia Robinson, the studio, wanted to keep you guys under control, as they thought. But on the other hand, you had other people that wanted to work with you. Because remember, we had come across a couple of deals where they wanted to project interest in a couple of tracks you did.
The type of people that, that was just gravitating towards us at that time was like mind blowing. You talk about the Hells Angels and all of those type of cats, they was our crew at some point.
Remember that? Yep. The leader of the Hells Angels, his nickname was Flash, and he was right on your ass. They were the security at the Riviera Club, and they were rolling right with you. And they wanted to travel with you guys and be your security and roadies.
Really?
Yeah, the Hells Angels.
Yeah, definitely, man. So, it was definitely an honor. And, it just to go back to leather, man, everybody understand the reincarnation of it. You know what I mean? And all that leather was the reincarnation for that. You know what I mean? They was able to walk the earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit about, or tell our viewers a little bit about hanging out with Mick downtown New York. Because when I came on the scene with you guys, I was like in shock because I was Squaresville, and you guys were walking into places like you owned them. I was like, what's going on in here, man? Oh man, that's Scorpio and Mick. I was like, and you know what I'm saying? You were wearing like the safari hat. You had your braids, the beads. The outfit was killer. Mick was wearing that cold black leather. You know what I'm saying? So, what was that all about? How did that feel? I mean, that was crazy, right?
Well, to be honest, I always been, in our group, always been ghetto celebs. So far as in the Bronx, in the 5 boroughs, of having the flyest girl or having all the girls want you that look like, your same color of skin and all of that. That's as far as I'm concerned. So now I have to take my across the Atlantic. I have to take it to the village. I have to take it. It meant more than just having a black girl like me, because even though that's our culture, this and that, I wanted to see where my power was at. So to go down to the village, you got the whole world on 8th Street. You got Asia.
Think about that. You had everything you needed. Yep.
Then I started to notice the same looks that I was getting from my sisters up top. I was getting from my sisters there, so it was easier for me just to hang down and and just because you gotta understand, before hip hop, we didn't have a lot of interactions with other races. We definitely wasn't hanging with white people, and white people wasn't hanging with us. You know what I mean?
Adaptability was important.
Until we became the it and the cool factor, then we was cool to be around, because they see us as the mother Negroes or black people that was on the street corner, but they don't understand we was them same dudes on the street corner, and we just was beating on cans and making rap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all we did.
And ghetto blasters. Yeah. But the funny part though was, after I started rolling with you and the crew, all other doors opened.
Yeah, it comes with it, you know what I mean? But,
yeah, that came with it.
That actually, just by hanging in the village, it made me less racist too, you know what I mean? Because even though I wasn't like just looking at white people, like, yo, fuck you, and it wasn't that, but we had no real interaction. We had no connection, at all. So by going down there, it made me like lighten up, and I'm quite sure we had that same effect on a lot of different white people too. We was like, yo, they all ain't bad. Because, it's easy to stereotype. And, I did it like most of us do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you know what I really liked? The white kids down in the village that were into punk, pop rock, hard rock, rap rock. they were down with us, and they were with MTV and everything else. And the first time they see you, they want to do something with you because they were just happy that you came on the set. And then they would pat me on the back for bringing you.
No,
and the other artists wanted to meet you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. You know, it was a beautiful thing, like I said, and the things you're talking about, Tim. See, at that point, it ain't even have nothing to do with artists or costumes.
Yeah, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was just like we were just hanging, you know what I mean? And at that point, I had graduated from the rest of my group, and I not graduated, but you know what they did, I didn't do. Not saying that I was better or they was less, but they didn't hang in the village like that. They didn't do it. I mean, you could see it after a while in my dress, the way I behaved on stage. It was like, yo, I took it somewhere else because I tapped into something else. You know what I mean?
That's the core, though. See, we have to get outside of our norm to really experience the world. That's why they always say travel is the best thing, right? You know, so in Mick's case, he's on the south side of Chicago. He's got all these hip cats that are his influencers. You know what I mean? The best dressed cats, you know, the way they laid their stuff out, the way they dressed, you know, that old school, you know. But for him to really come about it, he had to go to New York, you know, and he had to come in as
Fashion
an outsider,
capital
if you will, but come into New York and see how everybody rolled in New York. But again, back to your thing, you said something very, very important, and I haven't heard too many black folks admit it, but you said, you know, you had to like get rid of your own racism, deal with your own racism. And most of us don't look at ourselves as potentially racist, you know, just because we're usually on the receiving end. But that's not how it works. It's a two-way street, you know. And depending on your experience, you know, if you don't have that experience, it's very easy to be over in one camp, you know.
All I remember was when they took a trip to Europe, took all those costumes. We worked behind the scenes to make sure everything would be perfect, flawless. When they came back, when you guys came back a few weeks later, your whole attitude was different. Your insight, your ability to communicate, motor drive, how you talk to people, everything was different. And it's like you grew up overnight, and you were still just 21, but the growth pattern was there, and then it didn't stop. It just kept elevating.
Keep going, you know what I mean? Because, and to me, I contribute that from being around a lot of different white people. You know what I mean? And
that were into hip-hop, too.
Yeah. This is what you got to understand. The Europe white man is different from the white man here. You know
Wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Now, just 1 minute, Scorpio. Some of my best friends are now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yes.
For those of you out there that didn't get that part, if you speak pig Latin,
white man, this white man here, he still look at us like they really, a lot of them want us. They still don't understand. They be like, yo, man, y'all need to. Why y'all still ain't getting over slavery? But they still ain't mad to get over them losing the slave. You know what I mean? So it's like some real weird shit going on with them. You know what I mean? That's like, if you ain't a ball player and all of that other stuff, man, yo, they still look at you crazy because they still look at us crazy. Don't forget, LeBron James just had some things painted on his house out there, about a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it's for them to see us thrive like that. And I'm not saying all, but it's definitely a lot of them. So you know what I mean? It ain't
America's got a lot of history to deal with. Europe's got a lot too. They just don't live like that though. You dig?
Right.
So you know, I tell people all the time, whether I'm in London or Paris or in Italy, the folks don't live like that. They don't look at you like that. You don't experience the same thing. That's why jazz artists were going over, you know, like Miles and all those cats and cats that preceded them. And they could go over there and live and play and have a more fruitful life, you know.
Listen, when it got to a point, it got to a level over here in America when cats like us was like, they like, oh, that's old school, it's old, blah, 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 blah. Yo, we basically couldn't give ourselves away. We couldn't really get no shows, couldn't get no money. They was basically shunning us. You know what I did? Because of my experience of traveling, I moved to Stockholm. I lived in Stockholm for a year.
Yeah.
So then I came back here. I moved to California for a year and a half, and then I moved to Stuttgart, Germany for around 2.5 years by myself.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but that's the confidence that is still from the beginning, planting the seed of going through the village and different places. And then when it was time, all I did was go where the love was at.
Yeah.
I'm like, all white people ain't bad. I went in country.
Oh, I'm sorry to laugh.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
I may have to disagree with you on that one.
But think about Mick though, right? Because again,
What?
he's coming off the South Side Chicago, African
Remember,
American
I went to
community.
a predominantly white grade school, got my ass kicked by white boys. Went to a predominantly black high school, got my ass kicked by black gangs. I said, oh, so you just, wherever you go, you got to watch your back and you got to carry yourself well because you're going to find enemies everywhere. But I also had a lot of friends. And a lot of the white kids that I went to grade school with, when they came up through the rock and roll era, we touched. We had a level of communication that was spiritual and much better.
But this is also the claim to both of your success, is that you went for the human path. You dig? You dig? You got down with humanity. For Mick, that's his claim to fame. I would ask him even to this day. Now, how the hell you sit in the room with
With Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, with Glenn Campbell or Joey Ramone or Marvin for that matter.
Fashion and music was a universal language at that time.
Well, it still is.
And Glenn Campbell, to his credit, was one of the best, brightest, best dressed guys, a real Southern gentleman. And Cher and Sonny and Cher made the introduction. They said, "You've got to meet Glenn. He's a great guy," and they weren't wrong. They weren't far wrong. Speaking of Cher, years later, back in about 85 or 86, I run into her in Balducci's, that one of those cool little delis downtown in the Village, because she had a place in New York and a place in California. I run into her in Balducci's, and she's looking at me. "Mick, is that you?" And I got this great little leather jacket on. I love that jacket. I gave her the jacket. It's like giving her the shirt off my back. "Here, try it on. It's yours." And she said, "Oh God, I heard you were rolling with Grandmaster Flash and them. What are they like?" And I looked her dead in the eye and I said, "Those kids are the future." Enough said. Yeah.
So on the real, I know we're all zipping along here, but let me just ask you this last thing that's kind of sticking out in my mind. What is it that you think you could share about Mick, about Rockwest, that the next generation of upcoming stars and wannabe stars and dreamers and creators could grab hold to in terms of inspiration, where they could think about where they go in their lives and move about it with reckless abandon, you know what I mean, without fear,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think, for a lot of the artists, you can't, you can't be scared to step out there on that ledge by yourself and be creative. Now, you be creative enough in the studio. Now, you got to match that look. That look and that song got to match. You know what I mean? That's why you see a lot of cats, not all, but, they all basically dress like how I'm dressed in the house. Just with a T-shirt, this and that. Right. And this is how they doing. Maybe because, the streaming and the Fortune 500 companies caught up, so they making so much money, so they feel they don't really have to cater to the entertainment side. But I think, when you got designers like Mick, he can tailor-make a look for you that would be infamous. It'll go down in history. Like
iconic, yeah.
Like Prince, like a Rick James, like a Scorpio from Grandmaster Flash. And not saying to be them, but you can have your own tailor-made look. So if you want to do the street thing, you can let him design some exclusive street thing, not no store brought off the rack thing. You know what I mean? Because most of that is just being done. Yes, we okay, I got Gucci on. It's so you basically showing off the price tag versus your personality. Right. You know what I mean? It's so good to create and have your own personality, because then you're in competition with no one. You know what I mean? Nobody could beat you at being you. But if you got the same thing that Puff got on and this one got on, they have pictures. How many times we see how many entertainers have the same shit on, and they have in the magazine who wore it the best.
Right.
You understand?
Right. At an award show at that. You know how that is.
Oh, God.
It's not that many people at an award show. You know?
They always do that. You know what I mean? People is really scared to be different because they scared of that criticism. So they really just be trying to play it safe. And it's nothing like, just letting your wings fly and getting a creative designer. And if you could track down Mick Rock, you know what I mean? Even though you might think he don't have nothing in common with you because you 20 or 19.
After I give him a fitting and a massage and intimate conversation, we're on the same
And that finger thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those hands crawling up your back.
You're scared. You just be scared to be different with that, man.
Yeah.
Because it's all the same. It's all the same.
No doubt. It is a pleasure to talk to you today, Scorpio.
Right.
You're our brother, and kind of miss hanging with you. So,
Yeah.
you and I are family guys, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, that's what it's all about. That's the beauty on the other side, right?
Listen, and I just want to say this, our group, not braggadocious, but it's just fact. We was the first group to get inducted into the Rock and Roll prestigious High Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Nick was officially part of our group, definitely part of our growth, definitely part of our look. So I like to take my trophy, my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trophy, and dedicate it to you tonight, Nick. You was the one that gave us that look that made people like Cher, Eddie Murphy, and all of the other cats in the Bruce Springsteen pay attention to us. That wasn't us. We knew it was our music, but it was more the look going with the music. So for that, I would like to dedicate my trophy in honor to the great Mick Rock for designing all of the Grandmaster Flash for his trophy.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you.
One love.
Beautiful.
One love.
Beautiful.
One love.
You're a big heart, Scorp. What can I tell you, man?
It's the truth.
It is the truth. And we're gonna live by the truth, baby.
There you go.
Hey, we were just
great.
with the great Scorpio, Grammy Award winning, incredible artist, rock and
I
roll
think
Hall
I'll
of
fly to
Famer.
Stockholm tonight to see you.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Scorp.
Peace, my brother. One love.
One love, always. One love. Whoa. What a show. That was a great show. Scorpio,
He's incredible.
I mean, I couldn't believe that he actually, basically shared his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award with you. I mean, that's...
No one's ever done that. No one's ever came to me and offered me something. I feel humbled and benevolent by my association with him and the others, and their contribution to the rock legacy, and that I could actually have my name a part of that. With that lineup of people that I knew, I feel that it's probably one of the greatest lineups of musicians in the history of music.
We're talking about Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. But it's much love. This is our first episode of the Chronicles of Rockwest. Our guy sitting here, Mick Anderson, Mick Rock. This is so important, I think, that artists and others enjoy and understand what it is that creates icons. So Scorpio laid it out. I hope you guys really enjoyed the show. And this was episode 1. So on with episode 2. See you guys soon.